the IRB's chair, Colorado, all kinds of things. It's like, he's a wise man. I want my students to call me and say, Dr. Marlowe, I have a question about this. And that's all I have to say, and I probably spoke too long, but it was fun to use PowerPoint. Go ahead, Jan.
Okay, well, what he said. And also, so I'm interested to know how many of you have actually chaired a completed dissertation already? Has anybody done that? Yeah, so we have some people who are experienced in this process. How many of you are currently serving as chair of a dissertation? Yeah, so you're all involved in the process. You may have just as much wisdom as I do in this. So I've been at UNT since 1988 and came as a brand new assistant professor, moved up the ranks, and now chairing the Department of Counseling and Higher Ed. And some of the things that I think can be helpful is to know how departments manage the whole dissertation process. And I'm going to speak specifically from the counseling program in my department that I'm most familiar with. And one of the things we do, our doctoral students are in a cohort, so they're full-time, and that's maybe unique, but creates a unique opportunity. So the first year we have luncheons so that the students all meet all of the faculty and learn about their research interests. And then by mid-May, or mid-spring semester, we expect the doctoral students to all have their degree plans, approach someone to be their chair, and with the intention of that person remaining their dissertation chair. But we always make those commitments tentatively because we know that students change as they move through the program. And I always tell students when they approach me to chair their dissertation, you know, if there's a good fit in terms of personality as well as topic, if I have content expertise in their topic, or can identify somebody on our faculty that will be on the committee who will be the content expert. And maybe they're coming to me because they know that I'm a really good writer and they want that kind of support for their dissertation. I always tell them this is fine and it will not hurt my feelings if at some point you decide that your heart is really in a different direction and you really want a different chair. And I'll either move to be one of the committee members or I can completely move off of it. So I keep that door open for them to change if they need to. And then if we do stick together, as they approach quals, actually, we have a discussion about what they see as their strengths and their challenges in completing quals and completing dissertation. And that conversation can be really helpful because I always start by asking them what they see as their strengths and their challenges. And then usually all I have to do is agree with them. And so I'm not telling them what I see as their challenge areas. They usually know. And I can just say, you know, that really fits my perception too. So we talk then about how to play on their strengths, how to address the challenges that they have. And I would say that over the years, the biggest challenge that I've seen is just people, once they've left the structure of organized classes and it's time to become self-directed in the dissertation, a lot of people have trouble making that transition. And especially they're adults, they have lives, they have demands, and it can be so easy to be distracted. It's especially a problem if they take a job away from here. That principle of propinquity, being close by, is a definite helpful factor. And so managing how to keep them, how to help them stay focused. And I've just had a lot of conversations over the years about really nuts and bolts. You know, when Randy was talking about, I'm interested to know how you do your composition. That's what I work with students on. Probably the single biggest thing is allocating time and dedicated time when they're not going to be interrupted to work on their dissertation, and really holding that time sacrosanct. And, barring, of course, floods and earthquakes and things like that, but just being able to stay focused. And so several of you probably already encountered that in your chairing of students. So those are some of the main things that I think I wanted to touch on, and I may think of more things as I hear others talk and have questions.
I'll talk about some very practical things that I found most useful in trying to mentor my own doctoral students. First of all, one of the major challenges we all deal with is simply getting the procrastinators going. And I certainly have found that if you can get the student into the pattern of making regular visits with you, whether it's by phone or in person or whatever, but every 2 weeks or so, or every month at least, they should be touching base with you and having an appointment with you or a long telephone conversation or whatever. I find if you schedule them in that way, they're more likely to do something between the last time you met them and this time. They have a deadline, in effect, to get something done before the next time they see you. And those are the students that I can see continually making progress. I can tell you, though, I still have some students, even though I am after them constantly to do that, some of them still resist, and some of those are the ones that are not going to be finishers. I do think some of the students who have problems have it right up front in terms of where do they start, where do they get the problem and their research questions. And I think a lot of the mentorship occurs early on there, trying to get them to, ascertaining where they are in that process, how much have they actually read on their topic, and whether or not they have a topic that's researchable and questions that they can actually answer. Because if you find they don't have that, you need to direct them to more specific readings or whatever to get them to try to narrow that topic down, to focus that topic. One key question is, okay, can you give me the 2 or 3 major studies that directly lead to your study as the next step? I mean, if they can't tell you that, they're not going to be able to tell you how their dissertation is going to add to, contribute to, extend the existing research literature. And so you may need to redirect them back into the literature to do more reading. I also find that a lot of my students, even though they've gone through all the research classes we have, still don't have some very basic general concepts about research and types of research methodology and how you might phrase problem statements and research questions to go with that method, to have everything line up, in other words, in terms of the methodology, the statement of the problem, the research questions, the data gathering used, the analysis used. All of those need to line up. I do have some handouts that I use that I found to be helpful over the years. I've even given them stems, kind of open-ended stems, or starts to how a statement of the problem might read for a certain kind of methodology, or what a research question, the lead-in, might look like for certain kinds of methodology. And those who are struggling with that can take that and usually be more successful in developing statements and questions that really match and align with what they're doing. Because I often find they'll not use the correct words or terminology. I mean, if you read their problem statement or the questions, you'll think it's a totally different kind of research than what it actually is when you get into the details, because they haven't been careful in choosing their words and terms they're using to match the kind of research that they're doing. I think another key thing you need to look at, just for your own survival and for your own, protecting your own time, make this work with the students count for you too. I mean, if at all possible, hopefully they're coming to you because their research interests align with yours. Help them out by finding a way that their research can line up